The Galactic Council chamber was a place few dared to speak above a whisper. It was the largest structure ever built, floating at the heart of the galactic core, wrapped in a golden lattice of energy that shimmered with starlight. Inside, hundreds of alien species filled tiered platforms that curved around a central stage. The air trembled with tension as blue holographic names flickered above each delegation. From scaled reptilians with translucent armor to floating beings of pure energy, every civilization that ruled the stars had gathered. Today, a new world was being judged. At the center of the hall, a single human delegation stood. They looked fragile compared to the armored titans and multi-limbed diplomats around them. Only 3 of them had come: an older man with gray hair and a calm, unreadable face, a young woman with sharp eyes and a small device flickering in her hand, and a tall man in a dark suit who stood silently, watching everything. The High Speaker of the Council, a towering being of silver skin and glowing eyes, addressed the chamber in a voice that echoed like thunder. Species designation Homo sapiens. Origin, Sol 3, known as Earth. You stand accused of violating galactic peace, of constructing forbidden weapons, and of refusing to submit to council law. You will explain yourselves before judgment is passed. The hall erupted in murmurs, hisses, and telepathic whispers. Humans, an upstart race from the edge of the spiral arm, had dared to defy the council. Entire empires had crumbled for less. The older man, Ambassador Reeves, raised his hand slightly. His voice was calm but firm. We acknowledge the charges. But before this council passes judgment, humanity requests to speak freely. Several alien representatives scoffed, their translators buzzing. The High Speaker's eyes narrowed. You are not in a position to request anything. Reeves smiled slightly. I think you'll find we are. The young woman beside him tapped her wrist device. A holographic image appeared in the air, showing something that made the entire hall go silent. It was a fleet, human ships unknown to the council emerging from the darkness beyond mapped space. Sleek, angular, pulsing with energy signatures that defied known propulsion systems. A representative from the Krathi Dominion hissed, his 4 jaws snapping in agitation. Impossible. No species developed such technology in less than 2 centuries of contact. Reeves didn't answer. Instead, he looked around the room slowly, letting the silence grow heavier. You assumed humanity would beg. You assumed we would submit like all others before us. But you never stopped to ask how we survived in a world that constantly tried to destroy us. The High Speaker leaned forward. You threaten the council? Reeves's voice was soft. We don't threaten. We prepare. The chamber erupted into chaos. Energy fields rippled as guards took positions, but Reeves didn't move. The tall man beside him simply pressed a small device on his wrist. And every screen, every translation node, every communication line in the chamber flickered, then went dead. A few seconds later, they all came back online. But now every delegate's holographic feed was displaying one thing: the human fleet again, now joined by massive stations orbiting a world covered in blue and green. Earth. Our species, Reeves continued, learned the art of war long before we learned to leave our planet. We understand diplomacy, but we understand deterrence better. He paused, looking at the High Speaker directly.
Humanity does not seek war.
But if war is declared on us, we will not lose. The silence that followed was suffocating. Even the air recyclers seemed to stop humming. Finally, a voice broke through. You are outnumbered 1,000 to 1, rasped the scaled representative of the Thrall Empire. Your defiance is suicide, Reeves nodded. Perhaps, but you misunderstand something fundamental about us. He turned slightly toward the holographic feed, zooming in on one of the human fleets. The camera focused on a formation of warships shaped like long blades, their hulls black and smooth, moving in perfect synchronization. We don't measure survival by numbers. We measure it by will. For a few long moments, no one spoke. The council was frozen, an empire of countless species facing a single world that refused to kneel. Then the High Speaker struck the gavel of light. The council finds your words treasonous. Earth will be sanctioned, its fleets dismantled, and its world placed under observation. Any resistance will be met with total eradication. Reeves bowed his head slightly. Then the council has made its choice. The young woman whispered something under her breath. The device in her hand glowed blue, sending a signal invisible to all but a few systems. Somewhere far from the council's capital, A sequence of events began. The chamber dimmed as the human delegation was escorted out by guards. None of the representatives noticed the faint pulse of data spreading through the council's network, reaching deep into their archives, security systems, and even fleet command nodes. Humanity hadn't just sent diplomats. They'd sent a test. Outside the chamber, the human shuttle detached from the docking ring and began its descent toward the wormhole gate. Inside, the tall man finally spoke. His voice was quiet, deliberate. "Do you think they understood?" Reeves looked out the viewport, watching the swirling energy of the wormhole ahead. "Not yet, but they will." The young woman's eyes flickered as she monitored her device. Signal spread confirmed. All major council networks infiltrated. "They'll notice in about 6 hours." Reeves nodded slowly. "Good. That gives us time to prepare." As the shuttle entered the wormhole, the Galactic Council remained in chaos. Some demanded immediate action against Earth. Others urged restraint. The High Speaker called for calm, promising to demonstrate human weakness by seizing their colonies. But in truth, unease spread like a virus through the chamber. There had been something unsettling in those human eyes, something old and patient. The humans did not look afraid. They looked ready. Hours later, in the command core of the Council's fleet headquarters, alarms began to sound. Systems flickered. Power grids surged. Entire security protocols were rewritten in seconds. Then across the galaxy, every major fleet received the same message. It wasn't a declaration of peace. It wasn't a plea, it was a timestamp, a countdown, 24 hours. No one knew what it meant. But every species that had stood in the council chamber that day would remember the chill that crawled up their spine when they realized humanity had left the message in their own encrypted systems. On Earth, a storm gathered above the Atlantic, where a ring-shaped structure floated on the ocean's surface, glowing faintly under the clouds. Engineers moved like ants across its edge, checking systems, preparing reactors. The tall man from the delegation now stood on a platform overlooking the entire structure. He spoke into his communicator. "Activate defense grid. Begin phase 1. "Confirmed," replied a voice. The ring pulsed once, sending a shockwave across the ocean. Above the planet, human fleets came online, aligning in precise formations. Across Mars, Luna, and the outer colonies, thousands of engines roared to life. Humanity had been underestimated for centuries. Now they were done hiding their reach. Reeves stood at the edge of the ocean platform, the wind tearing at his coat. "They'll declare war before dawn," he said quietly. The woman beside him nodded. "Then dawn will be our answer." Far across the galaxy, the Galactic Council voted. The result was unanimous. They declared war on humanity, and in doing so, they sealed their fate. For by the time the first Council fleet reached Sol, it would already be too late. Humanity had been preparing for this day not for years, but for generations. They had learned the rules of the galaxy. Now they were ready to rewrite them. And as the sun rose over Earth, the countdown reached 19 hours. The Galactic Council's chambers were quieter than usual, but the tension was thicker than ever. Representatives from hundreds of species sat stiffly in their elevated platforms, their eyes fixed on the central dais where the High Speaker hovered, a giant of silver light and shadow. Everyone knew the human delegation had left hours earlier, yet their presence lingered like a threat. For those first moments of the session, the council debated. Some argued for patience, to observe Earth's movements before striking. Others, particularly the militaristic species, shouted that any delay was fatal. The chamber's energy hum grew tense, vibrating with fear and authority. Then, without warning, the floor of the council's central platform began to shimmer. A human hologram appeared, not bound by any council projection system. It was projected directly into the chamber, every scale, limb, and glow of the aliens around it captured perfectly. The 3 human delegates from the previous session appeared, larger than life. Their calm faces commanded attention. Ambassador Reeves's voice echoed through the chamber. "Council delegates, you think declaring war on humanity will secure peace. You think your fleets and weapons can intimidate us. You have underestimated the patience, ingenuity, and determination of a species that has survived countless near extinctions. You have underestimated us, and that is your first mistake." The murmur of disbelief ran through the chamber. Several species began shouting at each other. "Impossible," hissed a jagged-scaled delegate. We control the star lanes. We control the fleets. Reeves raised a hand. Control is an illusion. The galaxy is larger than any of your fleets. You do not understand the depth of human strategy. A young human woman, Lyra, stepped forward in the projection. Her device projected a 3D map of human colonies, hidden stations, and fleets that no council sensor had ever detected. We have been patient, as we always are. We observe, we prepare, and we learn. The council believes it has the upper hand, but your fleets will not know the battlefield until it is too late. The High Speaker's form shimmered as they moved closer, their voice booming. You are threatening the council. Your words are war. We have laws, protocols, and fleets that span the galaxy. Humanity, you will submit. Reeves's projection did not flinch. We will not submit. But understand this. If you proceed, you will meet resistance unlike anything the galaxy has seen. We do not seek conquest, but if attacked, humanity will respond with full force. And make no mistake, we have spent decades, centuries even, preparing for this moment. Everything you think you know about us is incomplete. The chamber vibrated with anger and fear. A multi-limbed ambassador hissed, "This is insolence. No species has ever dared to speak this way to the council." Lyra's projection spread across the chamber floor, showing fleets forming outside mapped space hidden within nebulae, between uncharted star systems waiting for orders. We are not insolent. We are human. We survive. We strategize. And we win. A ripple of panic ran through the council delegates. The older empires, ones that had survived wars spanning millennia, felt unease in their chests. For the first time they wondered, had they truly understood humanity? Reeves' projection moved closer to the High Speaker. You made a choice when you declared war on us. That choice was yours alone. We warned you. Now you will see what it looks like when humans respond strategically, scientifically, and without hesitation. Then, the projection vanished, leaving a stunned silence. For a full minute the chamber did not breathe. Then the High Speaker banged their gavel of light. Security! Remove all unauthorized transmissions. Humanity will not intimidate this council. But the damage had been done. Panic spread in subtle ways. Systems across the council were already sending alerts about strange data anomalies. Human devices had infiltrated hidden networks. Unknown coordinates blinked in fleet maps where no human presence was expected. It was only the beginning. Back on Earth, the real human fleet had begun positioning itself. On the command deck of the orbital station over the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Kane looked over the digital map showing council fleets in motion. They believe they can overwhelm us with speed and numbers, he said. His eyes were calm, sharp, and calculating, but they do not know what they face. An engineer near the console responded, Our probes confirm their fastest fleets will take 48 hours to reach the outer colonies. Earth and the inner systems are fully shielded. Kane nodded. Good, initiate Phase 2. Start the diversionary maneuvers. Let them believe they are in control. Lyra, the young strategist who had impressed the council, observed the simulation silently. They always overestimate what they see and underestimate what they cannot. Let's make sure their calculations fail at every turn. Half a galaxy away in a council war room, the High Speaker looked at the holographic maps of the human systems. Fleet commanders, seasoned generals, and interstellar tacticians argued over tactics. Some advocated for immediate bombardment of Earth. Others warned that striking now could trigger unknown retaliation. For the first time in recorded history, the council did not have consensus. One general hissed, We are talking about one world. Just one planet. What can they do to stop us? A young advisor new to the council whispered, They are not just one world. They are everywhere we cannot see. They move where we cannot predict. They understand us, the High Speaker silenced everyone. Enough. Prepare for immediate engagement. The humans cannot hide forever. Reeves, Kane, and Lyra watched the council's preparations with calm eyes. In the orbital command deck, the human stations began launching autonomous drones, small but highly intelligent, moving toward uncharted space. Each one carried advanced stealth technology, capable of gathering intelligence, disrupting enemy communications, and even defending themselves if needed. A fleet officer asked, Do you think the council suspects? Lyra smiled faintly. They think they know, but they do not. That is why humanity survives. That is why they will fail. As the first warning signals from council sensors reached the outer colonies, human ships had already slipped past the initial detection. They used asteroid belts, gas clouds, and weak gravitational fields to hide their positions. Even as the Council ordered interception, their fleets were misdirected, chasing decoys that led them far from real human positions. The outer colonies were buzzing with activity. Engineers and civilians alike moved efficiently, preparing defensive systems, activating emergency energy shields, and ensuring communication lines were secure. Humanity had spent decades training for a moment like this, and every planet, moon, and orbital station moved in near-perfect synchronization. Reeves watched the activity from Earth orbit, calm but focused. The Council believes they declared war. In reality, they signed their own death warrant. Lyra tapped her device, initiating another sequence. Hidden human fleets blinked into subspace, invisible to conventional sensors, encircling key Council supply lines. Each fleet was capable of launching precision strikes within minutes. Kane's voice cut through the command deck. We engage when they come. Until then, we wait. Let them think they control the flow. Let them make mistakes. Suddenly, alarms blared across the command deck. A Council probe had entered the outer system. Sensors confirmed multiple warships moving toward Mars and Luna. Lyra studied the holographic readout. They believe they have surprise. They do not understand the speed of human reaction. Initiate first interception wave. Minutes later, small human strike teams moved out, not to destroy but to mislead. They created illusions of massive fleets where none existed. Council sensors relayed false data back to their main fleet. Officers shouted in confusion, issuing orders based on inaccurate information. Reeves watched from Earth orbit as the first real engagement began. Council drones collided with empty space. Their first strikes fell on decoys. Within hours, the Council realized their information had been manipulated. Their fleets were in disarray, unable to identify real targets from illusions. The high speaker's voice thundered across the network. Humanity will pay for this insolence. Lyra smirked. We do not pay. We survive. And so the galaxy entered its first night of war, a war declared by the Council but controlled entirely by humanity. The outer systems became a chessboard where humans moved pieces invisible to every opponent. Every strike, every maneuver was calculated with precision, revealing for the first time the lethal intelligence of a species the galaxy had long underestimated. Back in the chamber of the Galactic Council, rumors of the initial failures spread like wildfire. Delegates whispered in panic. Generals argued over impossible mistakes. Some species even considered negotiating. But they knew that diplomacy with humans now carried a weight unlike any before. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Kane and his team observed the Council's reactions through hacked communications. They think they understand us, he said quietly. They do not even know the depth of our plan. Wait until they see Phase 3. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly as she adjusted the fleet coordinates. They will learn soon enough, and when they do, it will be too late to stop humanity. The galaxy had declared war on a single world, confident in its victory. Yet for every step the Council took, humanity was 10 steps ahead, guiding the battle from shadows, revealing their power only when it mattered most. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so silent. Hundreds of alien delegates sat frozen in their seats, their eyes wide, claws tapping, tentacles twitching. The massive room, which had once been the place of law and debate, now felt like the scene of an inevitable judgment, but not against humanity. Against the Council itself. Ambassador Reeves' projection flickered once again into the chamber, filling the central floor with his calm presence. You gathered here expecting Earth to cower. You assumed we would negotiate or beg or make excuses. You were wrong. A representative of the Mervex species, a massive quadruped with armor-like skin and glowing eyes, roared in disbelief. You dare lecture the Council? You, a single planet among billions, lecture the governing body of the galaxy? Reeves's voice did not rise. It carried authority. We are not a single planet. We are a species that survives. We are a species that prepares for the impossible and masters it. And now, you will see what that looks like. The hall's lights flickered. Council security systems tried to interfere with the holographic feed, but every attempt failed. It was as if the humans had anticipated every measure, every counter. Every display now showed data the Council had never recorded. Hidden fleets, colonies unlisted in their archives, stations orbiting planets they had thought barren. One by one, delegates murmured in alarm. The Council, which had ruled the stars for millennia, was seeing its own arrogance reflected back at it. Humanity had taken the galaxy's blind spots and turned them into weapons. Back in the command center orbiting Earth, Admiral Kane watched the Council's reaction unfold through secure surveillance feeds. "They are panicking faster than expected," he said calmly. "Phase 4 is ready. Initiate it." Lyra, sitting at the strategy console, manipulated the holographic displays with precision. "The Council believes they understand the boundaries of space, the paths of fleets. They do not. We will make them chase shadows while our real forces secure key points." On distant star systems, human strike teams executed their orders flawlessly. Drones cloaked in invisible fields slipped past Council patrols, leaving false sensor traces and triggering alarms that sent fleets racing in the wrong directions. Every move was calculated to maximize confusion. Every decoy fleet mimicked real human vessels. Council commanders, relying on outdated models of strategy, began ordering attacks on empty space. Meanwhile, on Luna, the human colonies prepared their defensive systems. Energy shields hummed as they enveloped cities and industrial zones. Each station and orbital installation operated independently, yet in perfect harmony with every other human system. For the first time in recorded history, a single species coordinated entire colonies with efficiency that defied comprehension. The Council's high speaker called for an emergency session. "We have underestimated them. Every fleet we dispatch is misdirected. Every planet we attempt to secure is already prepared. We face a species that outthinks, outmaneuvers, and outlasts us. Humanity must be stopped before they strike at our core worlds." A murmur of fear ran through the delegates. Many species were beginning to doubt their own fleets, unsure of how to act. The Council's authority, once absolute, now felt fragile. Back on Earth, Reeves, Kane, and Lyra watched the data flow in silence. It was a quiet intensity, the kind that comes when decades of preparation meet opportunity. "The first wave of strikes has engaged," Lyra said, pointing at the holographic map. "They think they are attacking us." "They are only attacking decoys," Reeves nodded, "and by the time they realize it, it will be too late. Their fleet coordination is already compromised. Their response will be chaotic." In orbit above Mars, a Council fleet commander cursed under his breath. His sensors reported human ships appearing and disappearing, their positions impossible to predict. Orders were ignored, communications delayed, and every strike that hit its target revealed nothing of the real human positions. "We are being toyed with," he shouted. "This cannot be happening!" It was happening. Humanity had turned the rules of galactic engagement on their head, using intelligence, patience, and technology far beyond what the Council assumed a single planet could develop. Humans were rewriting the playbook of war. On Earth, the Global Defense Network activated its next phase. Satellites long believed inert or civilian blinked to life. They were no longer observers. They were weapons, intelligence nodes, and communication relays all in one. Council sensors picked up anomalies that did not match any known technology. Panic spread across fleet command centers. Back in the Council chamber, whispers turned to shouts. Delegates argued furiously. "We cannot strike without knowing their locations," shouted one. "We cannot wait or they will spread further," hissed another. The high speaker tried to maintain order, but their glowing eyes flickered with worry. For the first time, the Council realized that they were facing an opponent who did not play by their rules. Meanwhile, hidden in the uncharted regions beyond the Council's known space, human fleets moved silently, converging on critical supply nodes and communication hubs. Each engagement was calculated not for destruction but for leverage, striking where it would confuse, delay, and disorient. Every attack reinforced the perception of human omnipresence, a tactic that sowed fear and indecision among the Council. Lyra tapped her device. "They are attempting a coordinated strike on Luna. Divert a portion of our fleet to generate false signals. Let them believe they are succeeding." Within minutes, the Council's main fleet was chasing phantom targets, their attacks falling into empty space. The real human forces remained cloaked, maintaining positions that would allow devastating counterattacks. On Earth, Reeves stood in the observation deck of the orbital station, watching the stars. "They declared war thinking they would crush us in hours. They will learn in days that war with humanity is unlike any other." Kane approached, his expression calm yet sharp. "And by then many of their worlds will already be compromised. They underestimate patience, planning, and precision." Lyra's eyes scanned the data streams. "They have the arrogance of empires. That arrogance is their weakness. In the council chamber, the high speaker slammed their gavel. We must act. Humanity will not be allowed to manipulate us. But action without understanding is dangerous. Each fleet that moved toward Earth or the outer colonies encountered interference, misdirection, or ambush. Communications were intercepted and scrambled. Decisions that once took minutes now took hours, as every step required double-checking against human deception. The Council, vast as it was, had never faced an adversary like this. From hidden bases in the Outer Rim, human strike teams continued to execute their orders. Small autonomous craft intercepted Council data transmissions, feeding false intelligence. The Council's forces were everywhere, yet they were never where they needed to be. Human patience and preparation had turned the galaxy's greatest military into a confused, reactive force. Reeves looked at Lyra. The Council believes war is about fleets and weapons. But war is about understanding, prediction, and adaptation. They are failing at all three. Lyra nodded. And they will continue to fail. Humanity does not rush. Humanity does not panic. We observe, we plan, and we strike at the right moment. The High Speaker, realizing the severity of the situation, tried to rally the Council fleets again. Orders were shouted across networks, but by now, the human influence had infiltrated even fleet communications. Confusion spread. Coordination broke down. The Council's power, once absolute, now faltered under the quiet, relentless precision of humanity. And yet, the humans did not celebrate. Every move was measured, every strike planned to maintain control of the narrative. The galaxy was witnessing the rise of a species that no empire had truly understood. As night fell over Earth, lights across the planet's cities and colonies blinked in perfect synchronicity with the orbital stations. Human forces remained hidden but everywhere, a network of intelligence, defense, and counterattack prepared for the next stage of the conflict. Reeves stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. They declared war on us. They think it is their decision. But every move we have made has been ours, Lyra smiled faintly. And soon, they will understand that they are not in control. The galaxy had begun to change. The Council had acted first, but every step of humanity's response had turned the tables. For every fleet they sent, humanity had already anticipated, diverted, or neutralized it. For every planet they tried to seize, humans had prepared defenses that made direct assault impossible. And in the shadows of space, far beyond the reach of Council sensors, human forces waited patiently. Every calculation, every maneuver, every hidden fleet contributed to the coming phase. A strike that would redefine the meaning of war. The Council had declared war. Humanity had already won the first battles without firing a single indiscriminate shot. And as the first light of dawn crossed Earth's horizon, every human commander, strategist, and engineer knew the same truth. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and that mistake would cost them everything. The countdown continued. 17 hours remained, and humanity's plan was unstoppable. The Galactic Council chamber was alive with panic. Delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats, claws, tentacles, and limbs tapping nervously on the glowing platforms. Above them, the High Speaker's light flickered with tension, an unusual sign of unease. For centuries, the Council had maintained order over thousands of worlds, controlling trade, fleets, and diplomacy with ease. Yet now, the humans had revealed something the galaxy had never encountered. A species that understood strategy, technology, and patience in ways the Council could not predict. Once again, a human hologram appeared in the center of the chamber, projected directly from deep space arrays beyond the Council's sensors. Ambassador Reeves stood tall, his presence calm but authoritative. You gathered here expecting submission. You assumed a single planet with limited fleets would bow before centuries of established authority. You were wrong. You have misjudged us entirely, the delegates murmured in disbelief. One of the oldest species, the crystalline Lirathi, clacked in agitation. We have measured your weapons, your fleets, your colonies. You cannot possibly match the combined might of the Council. Reeves' voice was steady. Perhaps not by numbers alone. But war is not only numbers. War is intelligence, adaptability, and understanding, and humanity has mastered all three. On the observation deck orbiting Earth, Admiral Kane watched the Council's reaction through encrypted surveillance. They still think they understand the battlefield, he said quietly. They do not. Phase 5 is ready. Lyra, the strategist, tapped her console. her fingers moving over the holographic map of the solar system. Every fleet they move, every command they give has already been anticipated. They believe they are striking first, but we control every step of this conflict. In the council chamber, the High Speaker's voice thundered. Humanity will not manipulate the council. We have laws, fleets, and authority. You will submit or face annihilation. Reeves's holographic image did not flinch. You have chosen your path. Now you will experience the consequences of underestimating a species that thrives on strategy, innovation, and survival. The chamber fell into silence as data streams flickered across the delegates' screens. Hidden human fleets emerged from subspace near key council supply routes, their positions invisible until they struck. Communication lines were jammed, sensors were fed false data, and fleets were misdirected into empty space. Panic spread faster than any council order could contain. On Luna, orbital stations deployed stealth interceptors. They slipped past patrols, launching precision strikes on communication relays without detection. On Mars, energy shields activated automatically, blocking hypothetical bombardments. Across human colonies, civilians and military personnel moved in synchrony, operating as a single organism with flawless coordination. The council scrambled to respond. Orders were sent, but the humans had already infiltrated critical networks, intercepting every command. Fleet commanders shouted into static, only to realize their signals had been redirected or delayed. Their strategies, centuries in the making, were unraveling before their eyes. Reeves observed the council's disarray through his secure feed. They believe they control the war, but in reality, every move they make has been anticipated, every response accounted for. The illusion of control belongs to them, and it is a powerful weapon in our hands. Lyra leaned over her console, eyes fixed on shifting holograms of council fleets. They are attempting a coordinated strike on our outer colonies. Divert a small portion of our fleet to create false sensor readings. Let them think they are succeeding. Minutes later, council fleets fired upon decoy targets. Empty space, misidentified colonies, phantom ships. Real human fleets remained hidden, preparing to strike at points that would cause maximum disruption. The council's confidence shattered with each misdirected strike, leaving commanders confused and fearful. Admiral Kane watched quietly. They will believe they are still in control for only so long. Once we strike at their core supply hubs, their fleets will collapse into chaos. In the council chamber, delegates began arguing. Some species demanded immediate bombardment of Earth, while others urged caution, warning that human technology and strategy were unlike anything they had faced. The High Speaker's glowing form flickered with frustration. We will not wait. Humanity must be crushed before it spreads further. But the humans had already anticipated this. Hidden fleets positioned themselves near council supply lines, ready to sever communications, disable engines, and disrupt logistics. Every move was precise, calculated, and devastatingly efficient. The galaxy's largest military network began to falter, not through brute force, but through intelligence and strategy. On Earth, Reeves, Lyra, and Kane monitored the unfolding chaos. The council believed they could intimidate us, Reeves said quietly. They did not understand patience, adaptability, or preparation. They assumed fleets would win the day. They will learn the cost of that assumption. Lyra adjusted coordinates on her console, moving hidden fleets closer to council supply hubs. We control their perception. Every fleet they command is moving into traps they cannot see. And when the time comes, we will strike decisively. Council commanders, desperate to maintain control, began issuing conflicting orders. One fleet was redirected mid-jump, only to encounter phantom signals of another human fleet. Another group misidentified its own forces as hostile, resulting in accidental collisions. Confusion spread like wildfire, breaking the unity of the Council's armada. Back on Earth, human strike teams activated Phase 5 of their plan. Autonomous drones emerged from hidden stations, slipping through patrol grids to disable critical Council infrastructure in uncharted space. These were not large battleships or weapons of mass destruction. They were intelligence tools, precision disruptors, and agents of chaos, designed to paralyze the Council's operations without mass destruction. Reeves watched the simulation. They will not know where to strike next. Every system we control, every fleet we conceal will force them into mistakes. They believe they are war masters, but they are playing our game. Lyra's fingers flew over the console. They still underestimate our capacity for coordination. Every human colony, every orbital station, every fleet is linked in real time. Even if a council fleet jumps past detection, it will walk into traps we set in advance. On Luna, orbital defenses adjusted automatically, reflecting and redirecting council attacks. Mars, Mercury, and the outer colonies all displayed the same precision. Even the smallest human outpost operated as part of a massive synchronized network. In the council chamber, the High Speaker's frustration reached a breaking point. Humanity will pay for this arrogance. All fleets are to strike simultaneously, destroy the outer colonies, crush Earth if necessary. Yet even this desperate plan played into human hands. The Council's sudden, rushed offensive allowed the hidden human fleets to intercept and manipulate multiple engagement zones. Council fleets were lured into ambushes, misdirected attacks, and decoy corridors. Every step of their plan only accelerated their own defeat. Reeves spoke quietly to Kane and Lyra. They declared war on us. Every step they take proves our point. They do not understand humanity. They do not know how to fight a species that is patient, precise, and prepared. Lyra's eyes gleamed. Soon we will deliver the final stages. Their fleets will be scattered. Supply hubs will fail. Communications will collapse, and the Council will realize the true cost of declaring war on Earth. As night fell over Earth, human systems continued to operate with flawless efficiency. Every satellite, every station, every hidden fleet moved in perfect harmony. The outer colonies, unseen and undetected, prepared for further interference. Humanity was a shadow across the galaxy, everywhere yet invisible until the moment of decisive action. The Council had acted first. They had declared war, but in doing so, they had underestimated the most dangerous force in the galaxy, the patient, intelligent, and unyielding species of humanity. Reeves turned toward the viewport overlooking the Pacific Ocean. They assumed they could control the battle. They assumed they could intimidate us, and they will learn, before this day ends, that war with humanity is unlike anything they have faced. Lyra's fingers hovered over her console, and when they realize, it will be too late. Across the galaxy, Council fleets continued to pursue illusions while real human forces advanced unseen. Every engagement, every strike, every maneuver reinforced a single truth. The galaxy had misjudged humanity, and that misjudgment would reshape interstellar history forever. The countdown continued. 14 hours remained, and humanity's plan, executed with patience and precision, marched steadily toward its inevitable victory. The Galactic Council chamber had never felt smaller. Hundreds of delegates representing thousands of worlds sat frozen in their seats, eyes wide, limbs shaking, or energy pulses trembling. The High Speaker, the shining authority of the galaxy, hovered above the central dais, their glow dimmer than usual. For the first time in recorded history, the Council felt powerless. Ambassador Reeves appeared once more in the center of the chamber, larger than life, projected from deep space with precision impossible to block. "You have declared war on humanity," he said, calm but firm. "And in doing so you have begun a conflict you cannot hope to control. Every fleet, every planet, every system you rely upon is already compromised, already under observation, and already part of the plan you never saw coming." The delegates whispered and hissed in panic. One of the largest representatives, a towering armored creature from the Korath system, slammed their claws on the platform. "Impossible. You are one planet. How can you strike everywhere at once? We control thousands of fleets, hundreds of star lanes." Reeves's voice carried an unmistakable certainty. "Control is an illusion. You believed your fleets and fleets alone could determine the outcome. You assumed humans would act predictably. You were wrong. Your war has already been lost, because you misjudged a species that thrives on strategy, patience, and preparation." In orbit above Earth, Admiral Kane watched the Council's fleets through the encrypted feeds. "They still think they are directing the battle," he said, calm but alert. "Phase 6 is ready. The moment has come." Lyra, monitoring the network of hidden fleets and planetary defenses, nodded. "They are panicking. Their fleets are scattered, their communications are failing. If we act now, we end the first stage decisively." Below them, on the surface of Earth, Cities and colonies were alive with movement, but there was no chaos. Humans moved efficiently, preparing for the next stage of the conflict. Every orbital station, fleet, and colony was synchronized, invisible to the Council's sensors, yet ready to act instantly. The first wave of decisive strikes began. Stealth. Fleets emerged from hidden subspace corridors, hitting Council supply lines and communication hubs. Entire squadrons of drones disabled engines and weapons without detection. Council commanders, expecting a single battlefront, discovered they were engaged on multiple fronts simultaneously. Every maneuver was anticipated and countered. In the Council chamber, panic spread. Delegates shouted orders that were never received, fleets that were misdirected collided or stalled, and attempts to regroup were blocked by human interference in communication networks. For the first time, centuries of governance felt fragile, vulnerable, and utterly unprepared. Reeves's holographic image moved slowly across the chamber floor. Your war was declared too hastily. You acted without understanding the species you sought to destroy. You believed that numbers and fleets would guarantee victory. You forgot to account for intelligence, adaptability, and planning. Humanity survives because we anticipate, we prepare, and we strike precisely where it counts. Lyra manipulated the fleet coordinates from the command deck above Earth. Hidden strike teams moved into position near key Council worlds, autonomous, drones capable of rapid adaptation, disabled weapon systems, disrupted shields, and left fleets vulnerable without revealing themselves. Council forces, large and powerful, found themselves trapped in an invisible web of human strategy. Admiral Kane observed quietly, "They have no idea where the real threat is. Every strike they make is already irrelevant. Their largest fleets are chasing illusions while our true forces are in position to finish them." The High Speaker's voice boomed across the chamber. "Humanity will be crushed. Every fleet is to attack. Every planet you control will be taken." Reeves did not respond immediately. Instead, the holographic projection of a human fleet appeared, showing positions near the outer edges of the Council's domain. Ships glimmered with unknown energy signatures moving with silent precision. "You think your fleets will overwhelm us? They will not. Your war is already over. You merely have yet to realize it." Every member of the Council froze. The scale of humanity's preparation was impossible to comprehend. Fleets, hidden stations, and colonies were already in position, poised to strike at critical points across the galaxy. Even the largest Council battleships were vulnerable. Communication lines were corrupted, supply chains were severed, command hierarchies collapsed in the face of invisible precision. In the command deck above Earth, Reeves, Kane, and Lyra watched the unfolding events. "The outer fleets are beginning to falter," Lyra said. "Every movement they make is a step into a trap. Our preparations are complete. We strike when they realize they cannot control anything." Reeves nodded slowly. "And they will realize it soon enough. Humanity has been underestimated for centuries. That mistake will cost them everything." In orbit around the outer colonies, human strike teams moved silently, intercepting the Council's attempts to establish a foothold. Energy shields deployed in perfect synchrony. Interceptors disabled weapon systems and stealth drones jammed communications. Council commanders found themselves reacting to threats they could not see, unable to anticipate the next move. Council delegates panicked. "We have never faced anything like this," shouted one. "How can a single species control so many systems, so many fleets?" Reeves's image flickered slightly, as if acknowledging their fear. "We are not a single species. We are humanity. We survive because we learn, adapt, and execute with precision. You declared war without understanding the consequences. Now you will experience them firsthand." Across the galaxy, human forces began to isolate critical Council worlds. Hidden, fleets disrupted energy grids, disabled weapon arrays, and cut communication lines. Council fleets moved blindly, chasing decoys, striking at false targets, and falling into traps designed generations in advance. Lyra adjusted the fleet formations. "Phase 7 is ready. We strike the core." Admiral Kane leaned over her console. "All forces synchronize. Wait for the signal." On Earth, cities glowed with quiet energy. Orbital stations hummed with coordinated power. Every colony and outpost prepared for synchronized strikes that would cripple the Council's ability to respond effectively. The humans had not rushed into war. They had waited, planned, and positioned themselves for maximum effect. Back in the council chamber, the high speaker's light dimmed further. Delegates whispered anxiously, some begging for negotiation, others demanding immediate retaliation. But every action they took played into human hands. Every fleet sent to attack Earth or its colonies fell into carefully prepared ambushes or misdirections. Finally, the signal was given. Human fleets emerged from hidden corridors, striking at critical council supply lines, command hubs, and energy grids. Fleets that had once appeared unstoppable were rendered immobile, communications shattered, and coordination lost. The galaxy's most powerful governing body, with fleets numbering in the millions, found itself paralyzed by a species they had assumed weak and inconsequential, Reeves observed silently. They believed war was about firepower. They forgot to account for preparation, intelligence, and patience. Humanity has turned their own strength into their weakness. Lyra's fingers tapped the final sequence. All systems engaged. They cannot recover. Their fleets are scattered. Command structures are broken. This is the moment we planned for decades, centuries even. Admiral Kane spoke quietly, almost to himself. They declared war on Earth, and now the galaxy will learn that humanity is not a species to be underestimated. On Earth, the night sky lit with the coordinated movements of human fleets. Each vessel moved with purpose, unseen yet inevitable. Orbital stations, colonies, and hidden bases acted in perfect harmony, striking where it mattered most. By the time the Council realized the extent of the attack, their fleets were already broken, their worlds isolated, and their command structures crippled. In the Council chamber, delegates could barely speak. Some fled into emergency protocols, attempting to salvage communication networks while others whispered in fear. The high speaker's glowing form flickered as they tried to rally authority, but every effort failed. Humanity had not fought blindly. They had fought strategically with foresight, precision, and patience beyond any known measure. Reeves' voice echoed one final time. You declared war on a species you did not understand. You believed power alone could enforce submission. You have learned, too late, that intelligence, strategy, and preparation are far more potent than fleets and fleets alone. Humanity survives. Humanity triumphs. And the galaxy will remember this day forever. The Council, broken and humiliated, watched as humanity revealed the depth of its power. Earth's fleets, colonies, and hidden stations moved in perfect coordination, demonstrating an intelligence and patience no empire had ever seen. The galaxy had declared war, confident in victory, but humanity had already turned the tables. And as the first light of dawn spread across Earth, the message was clear. The galaxy had underestimated humanity at its peril. The countdown ended. 0 hours remained. Humanity's plan had succeeded. The Council's fleets were scattered, communication lines were severed, core worlds were isolated. Every move of the galaxy's most